They can always join, catch up or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, we'll kick off. And for anyone who is watching, this is being recorded. So if you know someone that's missed the start, or if you have to duck out, then this will be available on the Cornwall Museums Partnership YouTube channel. So hello everyone, thanks for joining this morning. My name's Amy Shakespeare. I'm the Innovation Manager at Cornwall Museums Partnership. And we're delighted to welcome you to this immersive tech introduction session on facial recognition. For those of you who don't know, the WAVE project is funded by the Coastal Communities Fund and run in partnership with the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Local Enterprise Partnership and Falmouth University. There are two halves to the project. One half aims to create immersive experiences at 5 museums in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, and the other half is running sessions like today where we introduce businesses to the potential that immersive tech in all its different forms has for your business. We are on a webinar function today, so we can't see or hear you. If you want to submit a question, then please pop it in the Q&A function. I'm sure that we're all quite used to Zoom by now, but that's where we'll be monitoring the Q&As, and we have got a space at the end for answering any questions. And there is also the chat function, so you can pop introductions in there if you want to do a bit of networking, as I know that we're missing that at the moment, being so remote with all of these events. Just to flag up that we have another event coming up on the 20th of October, 11 AM till 2 PM, called Connect and Collaborate, which is in partnership with Screen Cornwall. This is an opportunity for you to bring an immersive tech project or a project that you've been thinking of that might use immersive tech and pitch it to immersive tech businesses, and also for the tech businesses to pitch to you what they can offer. So if you want to book onto that, you can find that on Eventbrite or our social media channels at Cornwall MP. I'm delighted today to welcome Jeremy Sneller from TouchByte, who's based in Cornwall and specialises in facial recognition. We were looking to run this session a long time ago, sort of before COVID hit, really. I remember being in the office back in the old days and talking to Jeremy on the phone. And with the rise of COVID and kind of looking at that no touch solutions, we really thought that facial recognition was a really interesting one to flag up and have a session on. So I really hope you enjoy the session. I'll be back on at the end in the Q&A section. And yeah, I'll hand over to you, Jeremy.
Thanks very much. It's good morning, everybody. Great to be here, and great to share with you a little bit about face recognition. I'm going to share my screen now, so we can sort of use that as a sort of basis to talk through. Hopefully, everybody can see that now. So I'm going to talk to you about faces and spaces, and it will become clear along the way what that exactly means. So it's a little bit about me first. So I am the founder of TouchByte, which is the company that we formed back in 2015. Previous roles were in some large corporate enterprise IT companies. And yes, now we've sort of set up TouchByte, and I look after the sort of front end of the business, the sales, marketing, and sort of strategy for where we're going. So I thought this morning, what I'd like to do is just to look at what is face recognition, the future of impact on our daily life of it, and give you some practical examples. Look a bit about we as an organisation, what we're getting involved in, the changes that we're seeing in the marketplace, and the opportunities for, I guess, everybody in this particular field. And then we'll have a set of questions at the end, so feel free to sort of put those forward if you've got any. So let's just sort of identify what face recognition, and well, it comes in two areas really. There's face detection and there's face recognition. Basically, face detection is basically a camera identifying a face and going, yes, that's a face. And then recognition is all around, yes, that's your face. So it's identification It's actually identifying a face. Now, each face has something like up to sort of 80 nodal points when we're looking at it, and therefore every calculation is different. So the face gets converted into these nodal points. That is what we collect. That's what we store. We don't actually hold facial images. And it's very much, the points between your eyes, your cheekbones, and so on. And we need something like, for those that need a bit more technical thing, we need about 60 pixels between the eyes to actually pick up that it's a face. So technology, you're probably all familiar with it at the airports for passport and border control. That's where it all started. There was massive amount of investment put into this, and it's been developing and getting more and more accurate. If you go into some of the new terminals, you'll probably notice the accuracy is getting better. In the early days, it was a bit hit and miss, but now it seems to be pretty accurate. We as an organization have seen the opportunity to take, if you like, the algorithms that the airports use and actually then apply them to other sectors. And we're seeing some quite interesting opportunities in some of the sectors I've identified there. And then we anticipate it basically moving into the home so that you can access your home without any keys, cards, codes, and just literally walk up to the door opens. So we're actually working on a project potentially that will be looking at that. So it is coming from that point of view. So we believe over the next period, we're not quite sure what that will be, maybe it's 5-10 years, that there'll be a lot of changes in our sort of daily lives. So won't necessarily need any car keys, office keys, house keys, because our face will be a point of actually allowing us to access things. We won't need any codes. A lot of us rely on key codes or codes to access a key box or whatever. We won't need those. Membership cards and payment cards. Again, we've seen contactless becoming very, very key, but maybe the next phase may be that it's your face, which is sort of more secure, more reliable, because you can always lose, or your cards can still get stolen. Hotels, again, we're looking at some of the hotels, but now that we're moving into this sort of contactless world, hotels. If you want a contactless experience, you can upload your face as part of your booking. You then get a text message to say that you're in room 345. You rock up to the hotel and literally walk through reception straight to 345, and you can get access. So again, cards, and also I think that aspect of it will be, they're plastic. Any of these cards, I've got a number in my wallet. I don't need to basically have those, and therefore, the environment will be a better place for it. Cash, I think cash has pretty much gone away already. Signatures has pretty much gone away, although sometimes you still need to do it. But again, your face could be a replacement for that. And also traveling. We're talking to some of the railway companies about, traveling using your face as your ticket. So we see a future basically having your mobile or your smartphone and your face, and the two working together can actually trigger an awful lot of things in the future. There's some great examples. For us, the iPhone 10 was a game changer. People then started to unlock their phone and getting used to actually using your face as a way of, and it is so easy now. I just pick up my phone, it knows it's me and allows me into my device. A lot of the cars, the new cars, the new concept cars have all got face recognition being built into them, so only you can drive your car. So it then gets around the cars being stolen issue. In China, you can actually pay for your KFC with your face. So again, it's a method of payment. We're working with some of the travel and transport companies about using your faces as a ticketing. And the one I really like is in China, they had a real problem in one of the areas where people were coming in from the outlying districts and actually stealing all the toilet rolls in the public conveniences. So they've actually put face recognition into the toilets, which is somewhat worrying. But yeah, it's an interesting aspect of one of the uses for face recognition. It's a massive market, growing extremely rapidly. I mean, the various different market research companies are saying the size of the market is going to be huge. The global biometrics market from one company is looking at sort of $71.6 billion market by 2024, and there's various other investments going on, and you're potentially seeing it a lot more in the news now, where people are actually adopting it and deploying it. So as far as the technology is concerned, there is, if you like, 4 areas that we look at. Firstly, customer analytics. This is where we use the detection side of things, which we just have a camera on a door. Maybe you've got a retail store or a venue or maybe a museum where you put a camera on the door. It picks up a round thing. It doesn't know who anybody is, but it picks up a round thing. It's a face and counts it. So at the very basic level, it's a footfall counting ability. But the beauty of that is that we convert the actual face image into the numeric code and get rid of the face. And it's the numeric code that we actually keep. So for example, you have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 arrives at the venue, and then you flip a camera around facing the other way, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 left at this time. So you start to get how long people stayed in a venue. If you put multiple cameras dotted around the site, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4 went from here to here to here. They went to had a coffee and then left. So you can get some really useful analytics. And we often think of it as, if people are familiar with Google Analytics online, what we're trying to do now is to look at how do we provide the same sort of information, maybe offline, and using the cameras and the technology, you can do that. So the second layer is then we start to recognize somebody for good and bad. So, it might be that you're a important customer and you need a certain level of service. It may be that maybe you may have a disability and you want to have again a preferred level of service. Or maybe you're somebody that's been an undesirable. Maybe the facility doesn't, or the venue doesn't want you into in the venue. And then validation is all about that ability to walk up to something and say, yes, it's me, it's Jeremy, and can I get access? So it might be a door, it might be a construction site, it might be a venue, it might be a kiosk, a number of things where literally you walk up, the system does a check on who you are, and then allows something to happen. And then lastly is face integration, which is all around where you've got maybe a back-end CRM system, or you've got a back-end system of some sort, and you want to include face into that, and therefore there's a scoping project, and we actually start to look at how do we integrate it into that. So there's 4 levels really of the technology. So a bit about us and what we do. We're very conscious that face recognition is an interesting subject and has privacy and ethical issues. So we are watching that and managing that and understanding the GDPR rules and so on, and to ensure that we're actually doing the right thing with people's data. So we built 4 solutions to date. I'll go a little bit into these just to give you a flavor of what they do and so on. We've got Secure Call, touch on that a bit, Face Entry, Face Stream, and Age Check, designed for different markets, different requirements. And the marketing guys have come up with these various taglines to see. So for Secure Call, for example, it's secure face-to-face video calls. For Face Entry, it's enter a space with your face. Face Stream is analyze and recognize faces and spaces. Track and trace using your face. And Age Check, faces and spaces. So again, we've done this sort of theme around face and spaces. So Sphere Call, just to give you a feel for some of the ideas we've been looking at, and various other environments that can go into. Basically, secure call is a bit like what we're doing today. Yes, we're using Zoom, but we've done it specifically on Teams for the moment, where we validate using face recognition that the person at the other end of the call is who they say they are. So it might be you've got a health and safety training requirement. Most of it's now online. So how do you know that that person is the person that he's gone through the training? So we monitor when somebody's doing the training that is the same person right the way through the training session, and then that go on their personnel records. Maybe it's a doctor and a patient. Maybe it's a teacher, discussing some things class with students. And the interesting thing on the teacher and students is a lot of schools and universities and so on are very conscious of one-to-one video calls for safeguarding purposes. So what we've done is here, we've actually said that we won't allow one-to-one calls. We'll only allow 1 to 2 or more because of the safeguarding issues. And therefore you get a full report of who's done what at the end. It might be, professional services companies, so maybe an accountant, lawyer, so on, making sure that they're giving advice to the right person. So it's a layer of security that we can add to calls. Again, if you're familiar with Teams, basically we put a little icon in there and we can secure the meeting and so on. And it just makes it a little bit more secure, and a whole bunch of reports at the back of it, so it can help. You can then see and audit who's been on what call for how long. So that's one aspect of looking at embedding face recognition into an existing application. We then developed this access control. We did have a push button version of this, which before COVID was fine. After COVID, people didn't really want to touch anything. So we've had to make it contactless. So I think the big beauty of face is that you don't have to touch anything. So it sort of replaces fingerprint, keypads, cards, and so on. You just literally walk up to the little device and it will let you in. So basically this, as I say, I'll pick out 1 or 2 points here, but it eliminates the need for fingerprint, keys, codes, and cards. It's completely contactless. If you've got people that are accessing a space and maybe they're employees, literally you do the interview and they can then upload a selfie and then literally download it to the particular site they're going to be working at, and immediately they can get into the building or the site. It's quite, there's many uses for this. It's safe, and there's other solutions that we're looking at that maybe uses your phone, but of course your phone runs out of battery. Hopefully your face remains pretty constant, but it does remain constant, and you can still access either maybe your hotel bedroom, your office, or a construction site, as this particular. We've done a bit of work in the construction site because they use a lot of fingerprints at the moment, and that's obviously a bit of a no-no at the moment. So there's a number of things here which we've designed into the little device. It's got, as I say, a number of different aspects to it. So talking to some of the cruise liner, super yachts, bedrooms for hotels, apartments, offices. And as I say, we're now looking at potentially how do we give people access to their home. Maybe you have an elderly relative that's in it, needs assistance. The carer for the day can be downloaded to the door, and that allows that particular carer into the building for a period of time. It's all audited, and everybody feels comfortable about it. It's just some of the components for that particular system. I won't dwell too much on that. If people want to have a more specific look at the little device, it's a clever little device. It's going down really well. Many different applications for it. You can brand it. We're doing some work with various different companies here, so you can see some of the aspects of what we're doing here. The other interesting thing is, when I go to the office and it uses ANPR, which is the automatic number plate recognition, if I drive in my wife's car, or I borrow a hire car or something, it doesn't let me in, so I have to push the button. Now, if you had a little unit at the gate, basically you could go, it would recognize you, and you'd then get access to the car park. And the nice thing is then, if you are known, reception can be notified that you've just arrived, and a personalized welcome can be given to you. Or alternatively, you might have digital signage in the entrance to say, welcome Jeremy, your meeting today is in room such and such, it's down there on the left, or whatever. There's ways of sort of giving a message to somebody. Just another little aspects to it. We do have another product which is to do with the sort of analysis and recognition side of things. So basically, it starts to recognize people as they arrive at a venue. And it's sort of providing, in the new world now, a form of track and trace. So as people come in, it captures, they don't have to sign anything. They can literally just walk in, it knows it's them, and records that they've arrived. As I say, we can do flow if you have, as I say, multiple cameras around a particular site. So it might be a museum, it might be a theatre, it might be a store, it might be a bank or whatever. But as people come in, it picks up their face, 1, 2, 3, 4 arrived. If you have cameras dotted around the place, you can then start to look at how many people were in the building at any point in time, how many male, females of between 35 and 40, for example. You might find that particularly interesting. So again, you can build up quite an interesting picture of who's in the building and where people are going. We've done some work with looking at shop windows. Again, multiple cameras in the window. We can identify that 1, 2, 3, 4 looked at the middle of the window, 1, 2, 3, 4 came into the store, 1, 2, 3, 4 went to the area that was actually in the window, and you can actually start to see that how productive that particular window display was. By looking at the gender and age, we can then pick that up, and even though we don't know who somebody is, maybe we can suggest certain things on the digital signage. Maybe you fancy a coffee, or you're interested in particular hi-fi goods, or a particular event that's coming up. You can then target those people. You can then, as I say, do the visitor recognition. So this is just an example here. So they've got 4 people arriving at a particular site. They go in the gallery. There's a particular one, Rachel Smith, there, that is somebody that is enrolled on the system, and she's happy for us to store the data. Maybe she's a VIP and wants that personalized service. We have a product called Notify Me that basically allows us to, or the management, to be notified that that person has arrived, so we can go and do something about it. And then at the bottom there, you've just got an example of some of the statistics we can produce, basically looking at the pie chart of all the ages that have come, pie chart of male, female, and obviously the time of day and so on that people have come in to the venue. So again, really quite useful information. Member recognition. So again, if you've got a membership, arrival captured, personal welcome, discounts applied, and so on. And if you've got multiple sites, you can then start to have people monitoring who goes to what, when. As I say, this is the Notify Me product, which basically can notify either a watch or an application running on a smartphone. And again, you've got literally different types of categories. We can categorize them, and different things happen when they arrive. Kiosks, again, we can actually make it personal, so we know the person. They can walk up to the kiosk if they're wanting specific tickets for a particular venue. We know who they are. We maybe, they're happy for us to hold their payment details. We can automatically get them on the system and paid for that particular. Or they may be arriving at a particular location. We can log them in very, very quickly. As I mentioned also, staff recruitment and onboarding. Again, they can, somebody comes for an interview, they get the offer, they upload the selfie, and immediately they can be sent to the site to basically start work. And we can then potentially look at how, what time they arrive, what time do they leave, and do the staff rota and employee log of hours worked and so on. And it's, it's them. It's no longer, I'm not handing my little pass to one of your mates to actually, allow you to clock in for somebody else. So it has to be used. So it's a lot more secure. So there's lots of different aspects to what we can do. Certainly the video analytics piece, which is more around the detection side of things. Then you've got the face recognition. So again, how many customers are visited, what age and gender they were, the movement around the site. We can verify their age if we've got any age restricted situation. You can personalize messaging to them. You can help them, and you can unlock doors. You can personalize the environment. You can pay by face. You can get access and so on. So, just a bit of a flavor of some of the things that we're seeing. So some of the other things, just to cover off, you might have seen in the press about the technology is racist. Basically, it uses an AI, so it has no conscience. It only does what it's been trained to do. So in itself, it's not racist. It's basically the trading algorithm behind it has only maybe been trained on a particular ethnicity, and therefore it's good at that one rather than something else. So there's more and more images being used to get around that. So as time goes on, we won't see some of the issues that have been raised. Invasion of privacy. Basically, face recognition only recognizes your selfie as a set of code, not as a specific image. So again, we don't hold any data on your image, so we can't actually recreate the image. Once it's been uploaded, it's converted to code and your image is removed. It's inaccurate. Again, it's all to do with the learning algorithm. And I don't know if you can see, but on the right there, in the last 4 years, it's got 20 times better at recognizing. So it'll only continue getting more and more images thrown at it. So again, there's various different topics here. And there's a quote there. And the last bit of example, for example, did we all trust the internet banking in the 90s? And the answer is no, of course not. So, as time goes on, there will be regulations and rules and so on that will be for us or for the companies that are actually implementing this to adhere to make sure that actually there's no impact to people's privacy. Only it will be very convenient. So just to explain a little bit about the background. So again, you've got the image and the gobbledygook or whatever is in the middle there is basically what is being captured as a face. The face is then deleted, and we cannot recreate from that gobbledygook back to a visual face. And then the information is passed either to an analytics thing, which is just one way. So once the analytics have been done, the actual code is actually deleted as well. But for those areas where recognition is being used and people have signed up to it to be used, or you're actually accessing your house or your car or whatever, or your phone, then you've accepted that is, you're happy to do that. So that was just a very quick run through of some of the applications, some of the areas that face recognition is being considered for. There are many others. We get asked many times for, can we help with this particular environment or this particular situation? So, happy to answer any questions that maybe people have or comments around this.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions already. So Stuart's asked, I think you touched on this a little bit, but what are you doing to ensure that the AI algorithms are free of systemic racial bias? There are a number of examples of facial recognition disadvantaging the AME people. Indeed, only today the BBC have an article about the racial bias problems in facial recognition at the post office.
Well, again, hopefully I've covered that a little bit. It's the AI is not racially biased. It's to do with the training of the actual algorithm that will need to get better. You know, if you've got a Chinese algorithm, it's very, very good at recognizing Chinese people. So you know that it just needs the algorithm providers are stepping up to making sure that actually there is no racial bias, or as little racial bias as is possible.
Will's got a very topical question.
Okay.
With most people wearing masks and therefore losing the lower half of the face for analysis, what's the minimum number of nodal points required for recognition? And does facial hair, beards, etc. cause issues?
Okay, so the last point there, facial hair, beards, sunglasses. I think we struggle a little bit with mirrored sunglasses, but normal glasses, normal sunglasses, that's fine. And you know, aging is also another point around that, is that we typically are as good as a passport. So again, it's typically 10 years that we can sort of like pick up somebody if they've enrolled sort of 10 years previously. In terms of the masks, it's obviously a more fairly recent phenomena. So we do have a mask face recognition piece of software. It's an AI, so it's learning. I wouldn't say it's as accurate as having a full face, but we do get a number. I must look up the number of pixels we typically get, but I can't. We normally get about 80, I think, for the actual full face. But actually, with a half a face, it's probably going to be less. But you know, it needs a little bit more training before, hand on heart, I can say it's as good. You know, it's basically the same as we would do. I mean, if somebody's wearing a mask, can I recognize it's a person? Sometimes I probably can. So again, it will be the same with the AI. As it develops and learns. But we do have, you know, the algorithm developers are working very hard at doing that. Yes, we can do, is somebody wearing a mask or not, which is one level. So again, in those areas, maybe stores or shops or whatever, we can highlight people not wearing a mask. But it's another layer, if you like, to actually recognize that it's Jeremy who's wearing a mask. So yeah, it's happening.
Wasn't something that you'd anticipated, like other people, that people would be wearing masks in 2020, so I think that's understandable.
Yeah, so it's what, 6 months or something before. So it's, yeah, they've been working really hard. It will happen, and it will get better if we still need to wear masks in the future.
Mark asks a very pragmatic question. What does the technology cost?
Ooh, interesting. If you're looking at just one camera for one entrance and you want to make it work, it's sort of around the £900,000 mark, depending on, you know, the sophistication. So anything upwards from that, depending on how many cameras you want to put into the site. The cost is coming down all the time, and that's why we see potentially, as the cost comes down, it will be easy to deploy in a particular person's home. For example, if you're running an Airbnb or something like that, at the moment people use key codes and things which don't typically change. So once you've got a key code, you can potentially get into somebody's house, which isn't always good.
Yeah. And like all these technologies, I think they're starting to come down in price. Everything starts very expensive, doesn't it? And then
exactly. And that's it. It's normal curve. So the beauty of this is that the government spent all the money for border control, passport, allowing us in and out of the country. So that's where the development of the main algorithms came from. We're now, it's now going sort of mainstream in the sort of commercial world, and as it comes, cheaper, faster, and better for the home, it'll come into the our own personal world.
So we've got another question in the chat, which is, how do you think we can best readjust people's apprehension about the privacy of the technology? Clearly it is safe, however, a lot of people seem very concerned about their privacy. When do you feasibly see this being adopted in the consumer market, e.g. for use at home?
Yeah, and I think it's down to us as an industry as well to actually educate people on, what happens to their data. And, I'm not altogether keen on people or companies monitoring my every day. But if I want to, it's convenient for me to get into my house without having to have this bit of metal. I'll see that as convenience because I can just walk up to the door and we'll walk in. So there's going to be this sort of convenience piece that overlays it. It's down to us to educate, I think. I don't think people think too much about unlocking their phone as to where the data is being held. It's because it's so much easier to do it. I think over time, as maybe the next generation of cars have it in day-to-day life. If you're going to a hotel and suddenly you're asked, do you want to have a key card or would you rather use your face? And you can see that actually if you're going in a hotel, or maybe you're going down to have a swim, do I need to take my card with me and lose it and all the rest of it? It's so much easier. I just walk around the place paying for things using my face. So I think as things develop and some of the applications become more mainstream, I think we will get used to, and that's our idea. We've got used to very much, cards and transacting with a card. We're transacting now potentially with our phone. Maybe your face is the next generation. So it will evolve and people will get used to, and as the concerns or we need people to start to embrace it really, and you can see that with any technology really that's new. There's always people that are a bit wary of it initially, until you understand that actually, I was a bit like like the internet banking example. I didn't particularly jump on that, but now I get frustrated that I've got a limit on my phone or my card that I can't transact anymore. So, but it's not the most safest way of doing things at all. Somebody could nick my phone, get my card or whatever, and they can have a field day. So I think it will be over time. We'll get, as more and more applications get it's applied to, it will get more familiar to people.
Yeah, I often think about contactless payments, like contactless cards, because people were really nervous about that with no sort of verification, and now that's been a real lifeline throughout COVID and lockdown.
Correct.
It's that curve of adjustment. Someone has asked, you mentioned about your face not running out of batteries. How about power outage for cameras controlling access?
Very true. That is it's a good point. Some of our cameras have batteries in them now. So that's developing as battery technology gets better, faster, longer, and cheaper. We see batteries sort of being included in some of the camera technology now. So one would hope that time. But yeah, I mean, if it's in a critical place like a hospital or something like that, typically they will have a generator. But if it's in the home, we see ultimately sort of batteries being a sort of replacement for that.
I think, unless I've missed any, that is all of the questions that we have. Okay. I'll just give people a couple more seconds if there's any that people want to post. But I think that's been really, really useful. Obviously, it is so cutting edge and new technology that you're working with that it's really good to kind of get a flavour of the possibilities. And as you say, as the price comes down and it becomes a bit more mainstream, hopefully we'll have a bit of background knowledge as to how we might be able to use that in our own work. So thank you. Oh, someone's put a power failure could also cause an electronic lock to block access, which is very true. So I suppose it wouldn't only be cameras that are at danger.
It could be anything. If you've got a fingerprint lock, or you've got some other lock, that relies on power, that's always going to be potentially a case. So
it's the same with any.
Can't do much about that.
So I just it's always awful when we're not in a space and you can't hear the sort of round of applause that I'm sure people are saying. Thank you very much, that was really interesting. So thank you for providing a bit of an introduction to this really rapidly evolving field. And I hope that those of you on the call have found that really interesting. Please do have a look at TouchByte and their work. They're doing some really interesting things at the moment. And please do have a look at the Connect and Collaborate session that I mentioned on the 20th of October if you've got some ideas brewing. But thanks so much, Jeremy.
Pleasure. Well, thank you for everybody that's joining.
See you.
Cheers
Bye.
now. Bye-bye. Bye.